children roamed around. The boys played football, whilst the girls collected wildflowers. We returned to our station by the golf course, tired but happy, in the early evening. We said our goodbyes to our host and watched the train steam off to the far parts of Nicosia.
From Famagusta, the railway followed a route past the ancient city of Engomi, through the villages of Stili, Gaiduras, Prastion, Pirga. It stopped for passengers at Yenagra station, then onwards through Vitsada and Musulita. Another stop at Angastina station, on to Exometochi, Epicho, stopping again at Trachoni station, onwards to Miamilya, Kaimakli, and finally into Nicosia. Another traveller on the Cyprus train, the Reverend Wilfred Castle, author of Cyprus, Its Postal History, relates his travels on the railway.
The first 4 years I spent in Cyprus, we were living in Varosia, and all the visitors we had wanted to ride on the railway. So although I had a car, we invariably did a journey to Nicosia and back again by train. With only one exception, it was always by railcar. Stopping at many villages, we clattered merrily along. Then onto a horse-drawn open gharry for a tour of Nicosia. The uniforms were smart, timekeeping to the minute, all station names in 3 languages to show British impartiality.
The Cypriots did often complain of the slowness of rail transport, and with good reason. Story has it that it was possible to walk alongside the train and climb aboard, and that it could be raced along its route with ease. The 37 miles from Famagusta to Nicosia, with all the stops in between, took around 2 to 3 hours, and a major delaying factor was the sheep and goats. This was due to the fact that water would dribble out of the injector feed pipe of the locomotive when it was turned on. This water produced some of the richest green grass to grow in the central plains of the island, and this, of course, attracted herds of goats and sheep. When a herd was sighted during a journey, the locomotive would whistle in an effort to clear them away. And if this failed, the driver would open the cylinder drain cocks in order to create jets of steam to be blown out in front of the locomotive at rail level. If this failed to budge the herd, the train would stop. The passengers disembark from the train, and leaving the crew together with the herdsman to get on with trying to clear the track, join some villagers in a game of football. From Nicosia station, the railway ran westwards through the suburb of Ayosthometios, otherwise known as Racecourse after 1932, because of the special passenger service that operated on race days to carry racegoers from the town to the racecourse. Following the line, the railway went from the racecourse directly on to Gerolakos until the 1940s, when an intermediate halt was added for the newly built Nicosia Aerodrome. It then travelled onwards via Kokinotrimitia station to Denia, Avlona and Peristerona. The line continued through the flat Messauria plain, passing by the villages of Katokopia, Argaki and into Morphou station, which was opened in March 1907. Passenger traffic was slow to build up, and for the first few years the railway operated at a loss, the Cypriots remaining faithful to their traditional methods, which were slower but cheaper. They apparently regarded the train more as a spectacle rather than a form of transportation, the people gathering to watch as it steamed from village to village. 4 trains per day were initially introduced, 2 in each direction. This consisted of composite passenger and freight trains. Until the goods traffic built up, the very first trains were probably passenger only. but the mixed trains remained the basic pattern until the 1930s, when the rail cars were introduced. The author Laurie Lee, who was traveling in Cyprus in the 1930s and took a journey by train, recalls.
The Cyprus Train is a small-gauge miniature affair with wooden trucks constructed as an apparent compromise between human beings and such other livestock as they may wish to take with them. There is little room to relax, and in a crowded compartment, the knees of the opposite passenger dovetail into your own. The journey took a long time and passed through red, yellow and green country, flat, some of it only lightly scratched for cultivation, some showing vineyards and olive trees growing in steel blue rows. On the horizon, a range of arid orange mountains gleamed unbroken in the slanting sun.
The third and final section of the railway from Morfu to Evrichou was completed in June 1915. Later in the same year, the Cyprus government agreed to sanction the mining operations of the American prospector Charles G. Gunter at Skouryodissa, and in March 1916, the Cyprus Mining Corporation was formed. A mineral railway was built by the corporation to transport the ore from the mines to a jetty at Karavostasi on Morfu Bay, and this linked to the Cyprus Government Railway at Garkodis Junction. Although the government railway brought plant and machinery to the mines, it only rarely carried trains of ore to Famagusta. The railway had not been built and equipped to carry regular heavy loads of ore, and this lucrative traffic was lost. The line to Evrichou went from Morfu station, stopping at the villages of Nikitas, Kazivera, Bendaya, at the Garkodis River, ending up at Kalochorio, where there was a bus service to Lefka. It then continued to Skouryodissa, Flasu, and finally Evrichou station. This was at its busiest when the British governor and his staff moved up to Troodos for the summer months, with carriages waiting in the cobbled foreground to take families and their luggage on the final leg of their journey into the mountains. In the days before airmail, the railway was an important conveyor of mail to and from the Khedivial line ships, which called at Famagusta harbour and carried overseas mail to Egypt for connections to the UK, Europe, the USA and the Far East. The railway was also used for the distribution of mail throughout the island, where stations such as Angastina, Trachoni, Kalochorio and others served as postal offices or agencies as well. There were, of course, other special trains during the life of the Cyprus Railway, in particular a prestige service that was provided on state occasions such as the arrival of a new High Commissioner. In the 1930s, the arrival at Nicosia station of a British dignitary was captured on film. It's presumed that this high-ranking official was Dr. Drummond Shields, the Under-Secretary of State for the Colonies, who arrived in Cyprus on October 15, 1930. This state train arrived emblazoned with the Union Jack across the head of the train and a similarly decorated first-class carriage. At Nicosia, an estimated crowd of about 5,000 to 10,000 people was waiting for him, waving Greek flags and calling for enosis, as a reminder to the British overlords of the Cypriots' undying wish for union with Greece. Locomotives 11 and 12 were also used to pull a full load of assembled coaches known as the bathing specials, which ran every Sunday. These excursion trains were started in an effort to entice more passengers. One of these, a much watered-down copy of the famous French Côte d'Azur, actually carried the name on the side of the first second-class coaches. At a shilling, or 5 cents, for the return trip on a Sunday, with ubiquitous gharries to transport the trippers to and from the beach, these excursion trains were a great success for many years. Special trains were also put on for the annual Orange Festival in Famagusta, when long trains